Yeah, you read that card right. So fans of the show, if you've heard of Lil Yachty, I want you to forget everything that you know about him, alright? Because this album right here is very different. Hi people and hello my Chili Con Carnage crew, it's Chili here from 5 Minute Reviews, and on this album we're going over Lil Yachty's album, Let's Start Here. Don't forget that we also do live streams every Friday. First up, I want to thank David from 1137 for bringing this album to my attention, as it was released back in January this year and would have otherwise gone, well, I guess unnoticed by myself. Lil Yachty is not an artist I would have gone out of my way to listen to, but after listening to this album, I knew I had to do a review on it. So imagine if Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon was re-recorded, and I'm not talking about the remastered version coming out soon from the band's camp or Roger Waters or whoever is doing it. I'm talking about being reimagined for the 21st century. It's probably setting the bar really high, but it's a good place to start, as the album does draw a lot of inspirations from this band and that album in particular. When it comes to the atmosphere and overall sound of this record, it really hits the mark. Right from the opening synthesizer on the Black Seminole, we are taken to another level. Once the guitar solo makes its presence known in a very Gilmour-esque fashion, and it brings the tempo of the track to an almost crawling time, but in a very good way. The drums add a velvety undertone to this tune, helped by that silky smooth bass line. The song goes for nearly 7 minutes and even contains a very atmospheric keyboard breakdown towards the end that really shifts this track into that Pink Floyd territory. But Pink Floyd's presence can be on full display with the wailings of the singer Diana Gordon, which takes its cues directly from the great gig in the sky, heard at the very last couple of minutes of this track. As it stands, it's easily one of the best tracks I've heard this year so far, but not all is sunshine and rainbows when it comes to this record. While I wouldn't go as far as saying there is a bad song on here, the second half of this record does keep it from being a near perfect status. Songs like Say Something and the first half of Reach the Sunshine are perfect examples. While they aren't bad songs, they feel like they could have just been left off the album to trim it down. I also have to mention Paint the Sky, which is a pretty cool tune, but it does sound a lot like something Post Malone would write, with its dreamy down-tempo gaze, and it almost stalls the flow of this album with its pace. I mean, a lot of the tracks here have that alt-rock lo-fi beat sound vibe to it, but this track in particular feels like it's really pandering to that crowd a bit more than the rest. One of the other more interesting parts of the contributions from the influence of Pink Floyd is the use of many kinds of sound effects to allow for transitions within the songs. From breaking up the monotony to flowing between tracks with either a spoken word segment or otherwise, it is mostly a decent effort. There are a few breakaways during songs or between that do ruin the ebb and flow of what we just heard, but I found it happening infrequently enough to not be a negative contribution. If anything about this album is negative, it might be the runtime pushing the 60-minute mark, when they probably should have adhered to their major influence and streamlined their efforts by cutting a few songs off the album to realliterate myself, but especially on the second half of this album. Overall, I would rate this album with a high score of 7.5 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being Running Out of Time, We Saw the Sun, and especially the Black Seminole. While this is a superfluous album to play through, I wouldn't call it flawless. It's far from it, but it's a very solid album that shows an artist that is willing to try and experiment with some new styles and, in my opinion, nailing it out of the ballpark. I cannot recommend the first track highly enough. And regardless of some sections not reaching the dizzying heights of the impossibly high standards set from the beginning, it's still a fun ride to go on. Turn on, tune in, and drop out. I hope you enjoyed this episode of 5 Minute Reviews, and if you did, make sure you consider giving us a like and also subscribing to us if you can. We're a small channel and we're looking to grow our fan base more and more. I hope you have a great day, and don't forget to stay spicy. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Live Listen Erased. And if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with all your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our Chili Con Carnage crew so you can get notified for all the future videos that we put out, as we put out videos every Friday. Also, we are on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over at Live Listener Race, so make sure to tune in over there. And don't forget to like this video so that our manager can stay very happy.